Let's begin with public comment, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
And I'd like to briefly summarize its purpose in our recommendations. We believe the district is in a critical inflection point facing two distinct challenges. One, first, the new statewide water budget regulations, which are a mandate, not a choice. Two, second, persistent and valid ratepayer dissatisfaction with our high fixed costs, especially from seniors and those on fixed incomes. The core of our proposal is that the district's current 75% fixed rate structure is fundamentally misaligned with these new challenges. This high fixed charge mutes the very price signal we need to encourage conservation and meet the state mandates. At the same time, it places a high burden on low use customers, penalizing them regardless of their conservation efforts. We are proposing a proactive solution to solve both of these problems simultaneously. We recommend that the board authorize a new targeted cost of service study. The goal of this new study would be to reevaluate the core cost allocation methodology from 2023. Specifically, we ask you to direct the consultant to challenge the assumption that 100% of the OM operations and maintenance and debt service costs are fixed. We believe a justifiable portion of these costs, like fuel, lab testing, and assets like pipelines, are in fact volumetric and can be defensively moved to the variable rate. We are fully aware that shifting to a higher variable rate raises valid concerns about revenue stability, especially in a wet winter. Our proposal addresses this head on. We recommend that the primary mitigation strategy be a formal funding and use of a rate stabilization fund. This is a standard industry practice already identified in your 2023 study and moves the district from a static, inflexible stability to a dynamic managed stability. By taking this step, this committee and the board can achieve three critical goals. One, regulatory compliance. You create the powerful price signal needed to meet state mandates and avoid fines. Two, ratepayer equity. You provide direct, tangible relief to the fixed income and low use customers who are most burdened by the current structure. Three, public trust. You send a clear message that this board is listening, being responsive, and proactively managing our finances for the long term. We are confident that this is the most prudent path forward and urge you to authorize the new study. Thank you for your time. Proposal is delineated out in more detail.
Thank you very much.
So, Director Robertson, if I could just briefly respond, I know we can't talk about it in detail since it's not agendized today, but Francisco, appreciate the comments. As you know, we did look closely at the breakdown between fixed and variable when we went through the last rate study, and just to clarify, it would be against the law for us to use consumptive rates to incentivize conservation. Can't do it. We do use some of our operational costs as a part of the variable consumptive rate. That is part of how that is calculated, but we can't use conservation as an incentive or conservation incentive to, you can't use rates to drive it. That has been struck down. So that's why almost all water agencies, well, all water agencies have gotten away from that, and most water agencies have a much higher fixed portion of the rate than they did before. That also, if I can share more information we have online.
And I'd like to add something to this. I mean, given the amount of work that went into preparing this, I'm grateful. It's very well written. I think it deserves a written response. We could develop.
Sure.
All right. Do we have other public comment?
We have one online.
Our speaker online, please, you have the floor. Does,
We can't hear you, Pat.
Okay,
There you go.
I'm not getting a lot of response out of, the header bar here. But, am I audible at the moment?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a couple things I'd like to bring up. First and foremost is a very vigorous objection to any plan or policy to add sewer debt collection to county property tax bills. It just increases the debt burden or upon people that are already having hard times. I think a better
sorry, Pat, you've cut out.
developing a payment plan for these people or working with some kind of collection agency better suited to debt collection. Secondly, and I know you can't respond to this today, considering the financial state that CCWD is currently in, I am very, very curious of how CCWD intends to obtain funding to construct a sewer trunk line from La Quintana to Jenny Lind Elementary School. It came as a bit of a surprise to me because the public notice procedures here in the area are a little bit thin. However, those requirements were met. But with all things considered and the fact that in some areas CCWD is already having issues with spending in their in handling the sewer side of the business, how is it going to come up with the many millions of dollars necessary to fund this project? And secondly, what are the projected costs so that people can find out about this and speak intelligently going forward? That's all the comment I have on this. Thank you. And I know you can't respond to that today.
I can provide a brief response if that's okay. We'll note your concern about the sewer rates. The Jenny Lind Elementary School force main is 100% grant funded project that the school district secured. So the school district is the grantee, and it's a roughly $10 million project, probably 7 to 10 in that range. But it's 100% grant funded that the school district secured. That CCWD will be reimbursed for our costs because we'll be involved in construction. We've been involved in design and engineering, but our costs are reimbursed by the grant so that it doesn't impact current ratepayers, and we won't accept the project until it's completed and it's fully funded by the water board.
Okay, thank you for addressing that, but it does cause me to ask one more question. Does this grant also extend funding to all the people that will be bordering the trunk line that will be forced to connect to the sewer line? I know that's a rhetorical question, but by the same token, there's a lot of people that would have to come up with thousands of dollars out of pocket to connect to this trunk line and then suddenly be subjected to a bi-monthly sewer bill from the CCWD without them requesting this kind of service whatsoever.
So Pat, we could probably bring that back to, we'll get this on the agenda, maybe at engineering committee. I'm not sure where that information came from, but nobody's forcing existing homes.
Okay,
Um,
that would be nice.
But we can take this offline.
Great. Put it on a future agenda item, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any more public comment either online or?
Public comment online from Michael Rogers.
Michael Rogers, you have the floor.
Yeah, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Yeah, I just want to add to please make Mr. De La Cruz document part of the public record for today's meeting, if you would, please.
All right, noted. Thank you. Anything else?
No, not right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on to approval of minutes for October 21st meeting. Great. So new business. Mr. Meyer, would you give us our report on monthly financial, our report on monthly financial reports for October?
My apologies here. I was taking notes for public comment and took up a page. But good comments. Thank you.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay, we have a rather full agenda today. And as we have several of these are rather, I want to say rudimentary, or just a little bit where others are actually discussing policy and changes to policy. So I'm going to take my direction from your committee as to how far you want to dive into the budget status report. This particular report is through October 31st of this year, which is 4 months of the fiscal year. And that equates to about 33% of the budget year. If you look, and I'll just do some highlights here. If you look at total operating revenues, we're at about 30.6% of budget, but that excludes the property tax revenues, which are not due, the first installment, not until January. So these numbers are a little skewed, and property tax provides a chunk of our change. Whereas on the expenditure side, we're at about 35%, a little over budget, but we've also been paying a lot of the debt service, and some of those are, we pay it semi-annually, some of them one time, so it kind of skews those numbers as well. All in all, I think we're pretty much on track with where we should be for 4 months of the budget, both revenues and expenses.
Yeah, I didn't see anything of real outstanding concern.
I had a couple questions.
Certainly.
That might be an easier way than just walking us through the whole thing. Just pointed out, we do have a long agenda.
Yes,
That are delinquent account charges. What's going on there?
well, that varies. Remember, delinquent charges, account charges are when they get sent to collections.
Right.
And I've noticed it kind of goes up and down. Last month it was below budget, below the target. Now it's above, and it all depends upon the number of accounts that are sent to collections. These are not accounts of existing homeowners. They are they are generally accounts where the houses have been sold, and we're trying to collect money from a previous owner because we can't roll the debt onto to the new homeowner. If it was part of collection, if it was a homeowner, it would be put on the tax rolls. Okay. So these are homes that have been sold where the individual has not paid their funds, or it is somebody where the bank has foreclosed them.
Other non-operating revenues? 54600.
Yes, sir.
It's like we're lagging on that.
Yeah, we are. And part of that is based on the timing of the payment of fees. Those other non-operating revenues are generally reimbursed. They're mostly reimbursements from MID and NCPA on when we pay the fees, federal dam fees, FERC fees, and such, state fees, that they are responsible for reimbursing us for. So we put the money out up front and then they reimburse us. NCPA is $1 for dollar. MID is about 90%. Now, those particular fees are due at different times throughout the year. Some of them are due in springtime, so we'll get a larger reimbursement come springtime.
Okay. On one of your notes, you've got the reminders were as far again delinquent account greater than anticipated. Is that just, as we discussed before, that's just a function of cash flow or how things come in, or are you foreseeing any? Is there flags waving and bells going up?
At this early in the year, it justifies some more observation and digging into it, but I'm not real concerned at this particular point in time. I think when it would work, it'd be worth, I believe I came back and presented an item to your finance committee last meeting on delinquencies,
You did,
if I'm not mistaken.
you
So,
did, yeah.
and I haven't seen any major changes since then.
Okay, I'll just keep asking that question. See, second, there's a FEMA grant that offset our non-operating revenues. Which FEMA grant was that? And I'm sorry, I'm still learning all these different programs.
That was actually for one of the weather events, and I believe it was an older one, 2000.
So this is money catching up to us. That's nice.
2022, 2023, we received funding for 3 different projects. Bear Creek debris removal at the diversion, roughly $40,000. Fence rehab over in Valley Springs, and some really improvements in at Indian Rock and Gorge.
Okay. On top of that, so that's money that just finally caught up to us.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And then also for that, the Dowd's Fuel Break project is FEMA funded. So as we submit claims and get paid, and we pay them, we get reimbursement for those as well. And I think that's in totality 360,000. Is that correct, Tony? Yeah.
And the property tax is under 52100. You've got a note here saying our for special project funding. I assume that they were part of the overall budget. Are we actually breaking that out? It's not just going into the general fund?
Well, we have regular property taxes. We have the which go 85% into operating, 15% into the special project fund. The special project fund, we do not budget for in the operating budget, but that's where we allocate those funds for one-time purposes, special projects and such.
Okay.
I'll ask a quick
Yeah,
question
please go
while
ahead.
you're looking.
Sure.
With the government slowdown for reimbursement or other issues with federal government funds, FEMA and other, have you noticed any problems we should be aware of as a board?
We are staying on top of our USDA capital outlay project for the AMI. That's been slowed down. So that is something that's affected us. But staff is back in place, and we've actually done some outreach to our local representative, and she's back at her desk. So hopefully those things will pick up. Now, some of the money that flows through FEMA that's already been appropriated, that goes to the state or Cal OES, we have not had any issues with that. Back to you, John.
Thanks. Miscellaneous operating expenses, Y113. What is going on there? It's like
What, I'm sorry,
anything
what,
I see miscellaneous, I always draws my eye. So you've got, it's under non-departmental, Department 50, non-departmental, Y13 miscellaneous operating expense.
oh, the, for non-departmental,
Yes,
that's insurance.
okay. Got it. You've explained that one before this.
Yes.
In one of the office expenses, we've got membership and dues are coming in over budget due to the Moak Watershed and membership. Not familiar with the Moak Watershed organization.
That's probably Upper Moak Water. Umra.
Umrah?
Yeah. Let me,
That's the only, because both the MRA and camera are not tracking duties.
no,
Let's just,
but Umra,
in the next notes, just make sure we get the title.
yes.
Yeah, that
That
must
could
be
be one of 3. And debts, anything you want to talk about on that?
Debt service?
Administrative services, bad debts. Operating expense.
Yeah,
summary.
that's what we
Major.
talked about that early on.
Okay, same thing. It's going a little higher than,
Yeah, and it actually, like I mentioned, it was below budget. Now it's up, and I think part of that is just the timing of when we send these accounts to collections.
any questions on this side? Oh, I got Jeff.
Okay, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about the bad debt with the late fee, one that's coming up. All right, let's move on to 3B, report on the monthly investment transactions for October. Are there any? Oh, sorry, public comment, please, Francisco.
And a lot of this may be because I'm not intimately familiar with how these flows all go and come and all this. But for example, something that sticks out to me on the first quarter kind of a basis, if something is 601%, I gotta go, what are we doing? What happened? It's a small number when you consider the big overall expense world that we live in with all these capital projects. But what are we doing with uniforms that we're coming in 6 times what we budgeted? I think laundry's.
That was a mistake. It's up to the meeting, that was a mistake on.
Okay, well, I just, 6 times. So if we look at the cash balance report and we look at the water fund, the unaudited 6/30/2025 was 4.9 million, round numbers, transactions. We're now unaudited at 1.5. Quite a burn rate. Isn't that significant to you in terms of we have 4.5 or 4.9 million and we've already burned to 3.4 and we're only a third of the year or 30% of the year through. Where are we going to get? How's that water fund going to be replenished? And then if I look at the sewer fund, we started negatively at 759 and we added another 234,000 25-26 in transactions, and we're now almost 1 million red there. As I understand those funds, I understand them to be checking accounts. Isn't that what we pay our stuff through or from? And if so, how can we have a negative checking account? Where are we getting the money? If that account is negative, we just keep drawing from it, but where's the real money coming from? Right? This is cash. And so that's what I couldn't explain in my books as to where's that? Are we moving stuff over from restricted funds to pay for ongoing operations or something else? I'd appreciate some commentary on that. You've already talked about bad debt, and I've already mentioned the uniform. You explained that away, but I'm concerned about our collections process. You've mentioned it more than once, and I thought that if we're at 80% of what we thought we were going to be for the year, 1/3 of the year in, that's a negative trend. It's a very negative trend. What's that doing to cash flow? If more and more people are saying, "Screw you guys, I ain't paying," or "Come after me," and I don't know what the sizes are. I would refer to Jeff to draw me a bar chart that says, this is the average balance, or here's how many are behind this much and how many are behind this much. And, are we got a bunch of people not paying, or we've got a few people not paying a lot of big bills? I don't know. I would want to dig deep into understanding why are we having a collection problem? Then is there any linkage to any of these collection issues with what's going on with Tyler? Because Tyler's in here as well. So I'd like to understand if there's something going on with the billing service that Tyler provides us that is contributing to where we are in terms of the cash.
I'll briefly respond. I'll let you respond should you wish to respond, Jeff. But I will say that some of these issues are before the board now. Some of the delinquencies became more of a problem during COVID, and we are struggling with the best way to work forward on collections. But Jeff, I'll let you respond should you wish to.
Sure. Actually, I'd like to go back to Francisco's comments about cash flow and the funds that we have. As I mentioned in the revenue discussion, property tax is a big part of our revenue flow, but we only get it twice a year, January and May. So we have some cash flow issues. Now, cash flow when you're looking at revenue expenses, some months the expenses are higher than the revenues, some months it's lower than the revenues. Because in September is when we have a lot of our debt service requirements. And that comes out of the water fund and the sewer fund. So obviously those things put pressure on those two funds right there. It'll come back up when in January when we get the property tax. Also on the water side, when we took out the loan for the Capital One for the water CIP, that was what we did in July. Since there was a issue with USDA on our parity request that we had to go through USDA and USDA needed to approve it, we had to place 1.6 million in an interest-bearing trust fund with Argent Capital for Capital One to be able to continue and secure that loan. As soon as that parity request comes through, that 1.5 million will come back into the 300 fund. So that is a temporary situation. And we're also earning interest on those funds in Argent. It's not a zero interest. So that's 1.6 million of that 3.4 million. And debt service is a big part of it because we have several key loans out. And if you look through the budget status report and see the payments, you'll see those float out. And there's times too that when we buy chemicals, we buy them in bulk. So again, we get better pricing and you'll see that fluctuation. Am I concerned about the water side? No, not really. Sewer, yes. And that's something we've talked about for quite some time. And the rates that went into place this year are projected to make allow the sewer fund to be able to go neutral at the end of this year. Now, we do have reserves. When we do our checking account, we don't have an individual checking account for each of the different funds. We have one checking account. We have monies there that are both reserves. We have monies that are from CIP funds, and we have monies that are LAIF. We have monies that are with Chandler Assets, all these different funds that we can draw from to be able to handle the ups and downs of our revenue flows. So am I concerned in general? Not really. Sewer? Yes. And this is something we've talked about, and this is something that the rate study was going to address. So we monitor that cash flow on all our accounts, and we're doing pretty darn good other than the sewer fund.
Okay, thank you. And I know you've been talking about even building the reserve funds further as we move forward in the future.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. Do we have any further public comment? Let's move on to district leak adjustment policy.
Actually, we have the monthly investment transaction report.
Yeah, that's correct.
And this kind of flows into my recent discussion about the different funds. As you can see, we have a total, we have several different areas where we have park our funds. One is through LAIF, that's a local agency investment fund, that's through the state of California. It's earning about 4.12% in October, which is not bad at all. Then we have Chandler Asset Management, that's our general investment fund with about 21 million. Then we have the 3 CIP loans. We have Chandler for the CIP loan number 2, that's at 16.5 million. CIP loan number 1, which is the US Bank at 9.3 million, and sewer CIP fund at 2.4 million. Those are loans we took out a number of years ago, and we're winding down those projects. Those funds are going to come down to a much smaller amount as we finish up the items. The biggest project left on the water side is the Jenny Lynn AB transmission line and a few things that are going through there. And once we expend all those funds, those two should go to zero. But that's the whole idea, is parking those funds. They're restricted. They have a certain amount of revenues that come back into that fund and can be used for help paying down future or current projects, maybe there's some change orders that make the projects higher than their anticipated cost. Now, remember too, that this was 2022 that we took out this loan. And when we had the engineers' estimates for those projects 4 years ago, three and a half years ago. So things change. So if fortunately, as we are earning money on these and interest, if there are any cost differences between the original estimate and what we have now, we do have some funds to cover it.
When do you expect them to be at zero?
Jenny Lynn AB transmission line should be completed by the end of this fiscal year, I believe. Is that true, Michael? AB? Yeah. Yeah. And then there's a couple sewer projects that should be completed by the middle of next summer.
Sorry, my microphone wasn't on. Yeah, I think we're on track for spring completion.
Any more questions on this?
Any comment? Okay, let's move to 3C.
Okay. This one is the leak adjustment. This item was the impetus for this item and some discussions we've had with customers recently regarding our leak adjustment policy. The original policy for leak adjustments was adopted in February of 1997 and further revised by a credit adjustment policy by an ordinance in 2000. The leak adjustment policy, which is included in your packet, both the resolution and the ordinance, basically allows for one leak adjustment every 5 years. We had a customer come forward recently, and actually now there's been several that said, I had a leak adjustment a year ago or 2 years ago for $67. Now I found a leak on my side of the meter that is costing me another $400. I'm just throwing out a number. Is there a way that I can sort of pay back my original leak adjustment of $67 and be eligible for a new leak adjustment? And so what we have discussed is coming up with a plan that allows for one revised leak adjustment for 5 years, but they would have to either pay back the prior leak adjustment or more likely just show it as an adjustment to the current leak adjustment. So let's say they had a $467 leak adjustment now and a $67 previously, they'd have to take that $67 and take that back into the original, into the current one. If that makes sense.
Understood. What's your recommendation on that?
Actually, we're looking for guidance here. And if, Mayor, this is the proposed language that we have. And if I'd like to read this, if a customer experiences a subsequent leak adjustment of greater volume within the 5-year period, they can request a second leak adjustment. However, the prior leak adjustment credit will be deducted from the second request to determine the amount of the new credit. A second
Yeah, I
leak-
forgot I had
Yeah.
read that. That makes sense.
Yeah. A second leak adjustment will only be granted once every 5 years from the date of the initial leak adjustment per water service account. We've discussed this internally, and we think this is a good change, a movement in the right direction to help our customers out and not be punitive in where we are more accommodating the leaks that they experience on their side.
Michael,
Yeah.
you support this?
Yeah, and this is like, as Jeff said, this came about, these are real circumstance situations that we've encountered where we, on the staff, at the staff level, we're looking at the situation and, it seems fair. It seems like a reasonable way for us to be able to respond, but the policy doesn't allow us to do that yet. So that's, I think, what we're looking to do. It does, I don't think it would be a significant financial hit. It would, it would mean we are allowing, more leak adjustment than we currently do. But there are some circumstances, kind of like what Jeff described, where it's a significant impact on the customer, and because they took a leak adjustment of much smaller within that time period, they're not eligible for another one. And so we're looking for some flexibility that might help help out the customer.
Understood
not a
entirely, yeah.
significant impact.
When I read through it, it made perfect sense to me, but I guess the only question I have on it, what about if there's real customer negligence? Somebody knew they had a leak and just
Yeah.
let it go and go and go.
And I think that's kind of the challenge here is where part of the reason for the policy is to make sure that we're not reimbursing people who are, that there are bad actors out there who aren't maintaining their system the way, you would expect a reasonable customer to do, but we're not incurring a cost because of that. But I think this still puts constraints on it to where still be pretty limited availability, but it allows some more flexibility.
Jack,
I got a couple of questions. We limit so if you've got a broken pipe leak and water's flowing out, we cap the bill at 150%.
Yeah.
Sorry, where did I see that? I think I saw it in the ordinance.
No, the customer pays for consumption.
Actually, not sure where I got that note. I didn't know about.
Oh, it says we provide them an adjustment of 50%.
Okay. Have them out more of the customers. So what do you mean? If I have an $800 water, use that because I've had water lines break.
Sure.
It's very expensive. But my annual water bill is $100. My monthly water bill is $100. Am I going to be capped at 150 or am I going to be capped at?
So you'd be eligible for 50% of the overage amount, right?
Right.
So
And-
go ahead.
And our
400.
customer, our customer service reps have great tools available to us, especially with AMI now. So they can look at usage and they can determine whether there's a 24-hour leak, something going on. And that kind of signifies to them that there's something going on in the system. Because obviously during the night, a lot of people's consumption goes to zero. So if you're seeing this, we look at when we can see where that leak occurred. And if you look at the leak adjustment proposal that I say, it's looking at let me go back here. Under item number 4 on the leak adjustment policy, leak adjustments will cover one billing period, not multiple billing periods, because within that one billing period, you should know what's going on and should have to fix it, and are calculated at 50% of the amount more than the customer's bill in a like period from the previous year. So we do a comparison of what it's been normally and what you see now. So let's say, and it's on the consumptive side, it's not on the base rate. So if you have historically $100 worth of consumptive, and now you're at 500, now that delta is $400. And that's where you'll get the 50% break. But
So you get
anything
credit for
over
$200.
that, yeah. And anything over $1,000 has to go to your board for approval.
Rough guess, what did this cost CCWD last year?
I unfortunately don't have that information.
I can't imagine it's very much. All right.
But that's a
So
good
what do you
question. I think before we bring it to the board, Jeff, let's make sure we have an answer to that question, and then
Sure.
also, to the extent we can, an estimate of what the impact would be if we were to put this policy into effect, how many additional leak adjustments would we be?
Sure.
Make sure, see if we can have that available.
I like this. This is customer friendly because things happen and
So you will issue an ordinance and a resolution. They're saying the state, well, are we using the resolution ordinance interchangeably on?
No,
No, we shouldn't be. So is it both that have to be updated?
well, Yeah, I want to, within, the next one will be an ordinance because the last one in 2000 was an ordinance. So we have to go through the noticing process and all that. But within the new ordinance, we will rescind the resolution. Well, and any other ordinances and resolutions prior to this time.
So we will consolidate these.
Yes, sir.
But like, how much I would like to see. This doesn't seem bad, but it'd be nice to have some of this.
Certainly. Understood. Would you like that be here at the finance committee or when it goes to the board?
We can quickly go to the board. Yes.
Okay. Certainly can do.
Surface looks like a very good customer friendly change.
I'll tell you what, the customer service reps are behind this. They like to be able to have tools to assist customers. And this is a good tool.
So, I'll get to you in just a moment. Anything else on this?
That is all I have.
Public comment? Cisco.
Thank you, Francisco de la Cruz. I would encourage, if at all possible, some sort of effort to publicize and get people used to doing their alerts. I'm doing a test. I was talking to Kelly earlier. I set alerts on all of this AMI stuff at a level such that I'm supposed to get an alert every day. And if I don't get an alert, then the system isn't moving. But sometimes I'm getting alerts when I shouldn't be getting alerts. Some of those are, hey, you might have a leak, which is, I think, something that folks, some services do. And so, as a question, what percentage of the people that have signed up for the customer portal are actually using the alert function? You should be able to tell that. No? And so to me, if I've spent, I don't know how many thousands or 100,000 we spent to put in the new Mueller meters and all of the Tyler customer communication stuff, I'm sure it wasn't cheap. But if we're not using it, we're not taking advantage of some of the features that it offers, we're wasting money. Why are we buying an 18-wheel trailer when a U-Haul would do? You know what I mean? Understood. And so I would encourage external affairs to think about something to how to get more people using and being almost tied to their gauge like they are on their fuel in the car. Hey, why is my heater? And sometimes you'll find that your toilets are have root cause. And sometimes it's like in my case, one of the sprinkler valves, after it finished doing its thing, it says, I don't think I'll shut off all of it. Sat there and dribbled all night long till it turned on again. So if you're not getting those results, and if clerks can't call everybody, if you're not set up, it's non-revenue water.
We get the information as well.
Go ahead, Rick.
It's not non-revenue water, but it's. Oh, I guess it's for the leak adjustment part of it, right. It's still consumptive water, but it'd still be better if the customer didn't have to pay for it.
But our system, we can know as well, there's some major leak going on and contact the customer or send someone out to check it out. Yeah. So there's a multiple responsibility there, but I like the idea of our public outreach and education will never be done. Do you have any further public comment?
Online comments from Patrick Roy.
Hello, Pat from Rancho Calaveras again. Germane to this last discussion, I'd like to suggest that external relations resume public outreach on the various local social media outlets to make the people more aware of services that could benefit them. External Affairs was very, very helpful in the past in keeping people informed, and the loss of that service has been quite notable. but that would be a cheap and inexpensive way to get the word out. Thank you. That's all.
Shall we move on to district late fee policy?
Yes. This is another item that has come up through discussion with customers and staff to see if we can provide some relief in the form of a late fee waiver. As you're aware, we started late fees this summer in July. And there was a lot of education out up front, and not only in the bills, but on our website and outreach, informing our customers of the late fee. And there has been well, one of the issues that came up recently was not our customers' fault. The U.S. Postal Service in Copper and Valley Springs lost about 35 checks that were going to our lockbox. And these customers were assessed a $10 late fee because they didn't pay on time. Well, they submitted their checks in advance, but it just never got to the post office. So in light of this, I authorized customer service to waive all the fees, refund the fees. And that started a discussion about what happens with people who are miss a payment. Now, remember, we do 6 billings a year. So if you are late in any of those 6 periods, you get a $10 late fee. And part of the reason why we started the late fee is along the lines of wanting to make people more cognizant of the fact that they do need to pay their bills. We suspended late fees and shutoffs, and Michael helped me. It was during the pandemic when the state said no more shutoffs. And while our neighboring agencies have reinstituted lockoffs and late fees, we have not until just recently. And so what we decided to do was implement late fees, but in doing so, one of the thought processes, again, along the lines of those leak adjustments, is maybe provide a waiver once a year for a customer in good standing to waive those fees from their statement. And this is one of the things that we're talking about today. Now, one of I know the question will invariably come up is, okay, well, how much money are we making off of late fees? How much are we going to lose by doing this? And honestly, when I'm looking at delinquent account charges, we really don't have much of a history. When I put together the budget of this year at 71,000, it was just one of these because we haven't collected late fees in 5 years. So we are running a little bit ahead of budget, but how this will affect us, I can run some numbers, and next time we go to the board, if your committee so approves us to move forward. But honestly, it's not as if we're giving a refund of water used. This is a fee that we would be collected. So in other words, we're just waiving a fee that is not a cost associated revenue. That makes sense. Yeah.
No, I understand what you're saying. I just have different
Yeah.
thoughts on it. Jack, do you have any thoughts?
So the amount of money.
In this case, yes. When you're looking at the overall amount of revenues we collect, it is negligible.
And the reason we put late fees in was to try and reduce our delinquencies. As I understand, that was like the first step of many things we're considering.
Yes.
It is also partly to cover the administrative cost of, managing those late fees and those delinquent accounts would cover a little bit of, staff time that is spent on that. So there's a little bit of a cost recovery there. It doesn't fully cover the cost.
I have no problem with late
But
fees.
yeah,
I
but
wonder
the-
about the administrative costs of waiving when that adds something to.
It is,
Yeah.
it's time, there's a time requirement because each person who requests a waiver, the customer service representative will have to go through, look at their account, see when the last time an account, a fee was waived, and if they're still in good standing. In other words, it's not an outstanding bill.
Yeah,
There is
so
co-
I think though relatively small, and it, again, this is similar that it gives the customer service representative that, you know, because there are times when there's the customer has an explanation for why, why the payment was late. But the policy currently doesn't give the customer service representatives any flexibility there. We want to be careful the way, I think the way we drafted this is because we also don't want it to become a judgment call on the part of the customer service representative that puts them in a very difficult position. And so the way that we tried to simplify this was just to say, you know, if any customer, regardless of who they are, requests a waiver of a late fee within any, you know, within a certain time period, as long as they meet the criteria here, they get it. It's not, it doesn't put the customer service representative in a position.
Willing to do the extra work, which is the minimus, that's fine.
So, yeah, hopefully quick and easy and very, you know, clear and fair for how it would be. Fair.
Yes.
Stuff gets mixed.
Yeah.
And our customer service reps fully endorse this, and they like to have more tools in their toolbox to help our customers, just like the leak adjustment. And they're willing to do the extra work because they know it's helping their customers.
Anything else on this?
We
We have
don't have anything else.
call for public comment?
Legacy ratepayer. I addressed this with Mr. Meeker via email on the board on October 30th. I have a question. When somebody is, I think I read it, but I need to refer back to my notes and I didn't bring my glasses today. At what point, how late do you have to be for the late fee? Is it, if it's due on the first and is it 24 hours? At what point is that late fee instilled? Like, because I have a friend that lives here and a day, not even a day, like she made a partial payment and went back, had to borrow the rest and go back and pay. Not even within a 24-hour period, she was charged a late fee. I believe there's a period. You know, and then I just wanted to say that I understand that late fees are designed to encourage timely payments and deter chronic delinquencies, but when someone's income can no longer cover the bill, that deterrent no longer works. It becomes punitive, not corrective, and it punishes people who can't pay, who are having a hard time and are struggling. I didn't see where CCWD currently offers payment plans for customer assistance programs, but there does not appear to be an option for hardship based on late fee waivers. I didn't see that.
So, and that's what I was talking about a little bit earlier. Hardship based makes it much more difficult to administer. And so what we're trying to do here is come up with a way for there to be some flexibility to grant a waiver on a limited basis. But if we start to, you know, we don't verify customer income levels. We don't have any way to necessarily do that. It would become a much more difficult program to administer. And so what we're trying to do is give the customer service representatives a tool to grant waivers without it becoming a big administrative burden in terms of managing. Those weren't necessarily waivers. We didn't have any. So we weren't granting waivers based on hardship. We just stopped the late fees.
I will add that the board has before it looking at ways to really be able to help those on really limited incomes. We're working with the state as well, trying to actually come up with some. We are limited by law, but what revenues we can use for to reduce bills. And we do have this one program you're probably familiar with, which is a $50 amount, but we're working on going beyond that. Partially out of some of your comments, it's a big issue before the board, and it's an important one that we all agree. Yeah, I take your point. Punitive And I see both sides.
It reached a point with delinquencies over the last few years, where we really felt like we needed to do something. We started doing reminder notices, before, and that wasn't having enough of an impact. And so we came back around to, and hopefully that will have, and my hope is also it'll decrease now that it is rolled out for a few billing cycles, to see a drop off in the number of late fees that we're having to assess, just through that customer education process. But I think we reached a point where it felt like we needed to address the issue. We're trying to, with this, we're trying to create some flexibility, so there's
It would be less onerous than going to a collection agency, as has been suggested in this forum, but it's a problem that affects all our customers. We can't collect, means others would have to pay more, and we certainly don't want that. So anyway, before the board, we're looking at it seriously and looking at what we can do. And this was one minor step.
Yes. And just to follow up, our delinquencies are handled in generally two ways. One, if it's a property that's still owned by the individual, it goes on the tax rolls. And our amount of funds or fees that are went onto the tax rolls have gone from 200 to nearly 700. So there's more and more delinquent accounts going to tax rolls. And that's expensive to us because we have to pay 1%. The other component of that is if the house is sold or foreclosed upon, then it goes to collections. And our efforts through collections are not that good. We want to try to settle something up front, keep it from going to collections. And even I'm working with one individual now who has sold their house and was delinquent and it was ready to go to collections. We put a hold on that and she's making payments to be able to move forward, to keep it off of collections and keep her credit rating high. So we're trying to do a little bit more. The other component is payment rates. One of the things that we have in here in the Tyler UB business process report is adding the ability to do payment rates. So we're kind of expanding our toolbox to help out the customers. As far as when does a late fee happen, the due date is printed on the bill. So the next day after that, if it hasn't been paid, it goes on to a late fee is generated. Yes, yes. No, it's when the notice goes out to, we go through our billings individual company, and they're the ones that actually send out the notices.
Any further public comment online? Okay.
I come from a company in my history that used deposits, late fees, disconnections, etc. You might recognize the specific telephone, South far back that came.
That rings a
But
bell.
$10 is 2 cups of coffee nowadays. Okay. I don't know how much of a disincentive it is, even though folks are struggling. I don't know how much of a disincentive it is to have to come up with an extra $10. You can't come up with 500 because your bill's 500 and some, and you're adding another 10. What are we doing? Does it need to go to late or to delinquent one day after it's due? Can we go to 5 days after it's due? Can we, have a graduated late fee? If it's within 5 days of the due date, it's 0. If it's between 5 and 15, it's $25. If it's after that, it's $50 and whatever. But it seems like $10 day after, it doesn't seem very effective. And if we're growing our delinquency rate, it's obviously not very effective. It's not convincing very many people to pay up. They'd rather just walk away and say, collect it somehow.
Again, we just started this process in July. So we're just starting to see some of the effects and some of the conversations we're having with customers. but it really isn't that large of a dollar amount. In fact, that dollar amount was the same as when I joined in 2008. It has not changed. We, as Michael alluded to, I told you, we don't do lockoffs, and that's very punitive. That's very punitive and very costly. So we were trying to find ways to encourage customers to pay their bills without having to resort to lockoffs, where many of our local agencies do lockoffs.
Like most do.
Yeah.
If I just have one more question. Wrapping up side. You've mentioned a couple times property sales and trying to collect on the. Now I come from county land, where property taxes are going to be found during escrow.
Yeah.
Do our escrow agents, local escrow agents, are they aware to even check this? I don't think they're required to.
They don't. We're the last to find out. In fact,
Maybe-
we find out houses are sold after the fact when the new customer comes in and says, I'd like to open a new account.
Might be one of those things in a public outreach. There's not that many escrow agents around here.
Yeah.
So it might be as simple as calling them up and saying, hey, be sure to check this bill as well as you go through it. I don't know what the legalities of that.
No, it's a really good point. And we've had some conversations about that in the past. We've talked to the title companies, and there have been a few times actually where with larger properties where we were aware of the transaction, we did put demands on escrow and it works. So it can be a very effective tool. But for the most part, we find out about it after the fact.
I know we'll talk about this next, but that does bring us to the county. That those bills will be collected at some county tax room.
Yes.
I've been through a lot of meetings where it's been reported out that our participation rate in the customer assistance program is not 100%. There's always some slots left in there. My overarching question is, what is the amount of funds that are not ratepayer funds that come into CCWD that could potentially be used partly to fund a different aspect of a customer assistance program? We'll cover your late fee with these $10. Or it looks like you're eligible for our customer assistance program. Let's get you signed up for that. For example, my understanding is, you mentioned earlier, we get a lot of money on interest, right? We investment interest, and those are restricted funds, restricted funds. But there are some that are interest-bearing accounts that would be considered not ratepayer revenue. It's.
There are other sources of unrestricted funds as well. It's all, it's all revenue for the district. So anything we take.
Well, I'm
you know,
thinking
away,
hydro, for example. That's not
Right, but-
revenue.
It is. So anything it will impact the budget. That's the constant trade-off that we have. Even the $60,000 we budget for the customer assistance program right now would otherwise be used elsewhere in the budget.
No, I understand that part, but I'm talking about the whole legal line of saying you can't use ratepayer revenue to pay somebody else's bill.
Right.
So what is repayer revenue?
Property taxes, hydro revenue,
That's what
cell
I'm,
tower revenue,
interest on investments, all that's not.
unrestricted revenue,
Right.
unrestricted funds.
So that's a potential source for us to say, well, it's not a total customer assistance program for you in particular, but at least for this one time, it covers your $10. Now get better at paying your bills. Right? I mean, that's just one option that instead of just waiving it, well, here, we're going to cover it from this account. And help.
It's better if you speak to the microphone so that people.
I run a page on Nextdoor based on the comments and tons of comments that I get on my page, profile. It's not that people are being negligent and not paying their bills. It's the fact that they don't have the money to pay the bill. And like my friend who borrowed to pay her water bill, I said, what are you gonna do when water comes again? Like, you can only borrow your way out of a bill for so long before people are struggling. It's not that they're being lazy or they're being irresponsible or they're not paying the water bills, just they don't have the money. That's that's what I see. That's all the comments I deal with. It's not about people being irresponsible.
Well, I think those are the customers that concern all of us is the most. And
And right. And we usually will, if they're not already on the customer assistance program or, customer service reps will flag that, or we'll try to connect them with other resources that might be able to help them. You were here for the presentation from ACTA recently, we'll often refer people there. What we can't do is not charge them the water sewer bill. We have to, that has to apply to every customer, and that's where it's a real challenge.
in my views, the customer service program is not enough. And we're looking, but that's not an easy, not an easy answer to that. But I know I've gotten letters. There's people out there for whom their water sewer bill is 10% of their total monthly income. And that's really tough. All right.
I have nothing else.
We'll move on to the discussion of placement of district sewer bills.
Yes,
Sorry, Jeff, just to close the loop on that. So we will bring that one back to the full board as well. So the direction from the committee will run that.
yeah, thank you. I'd already written it down, but it's nice to have it on the
I
record.
just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Okay. This next item, placement of district sewer bills on the county tax rolls was requested by the finance committee and asked us to research the options. I addressed this to the finance committee last August, but now I'm kind of updating it with current numbers. The example that we used that I looked into was Mokelumne Hill Sanitation District. They recently went from billing to putting their bills on the tax rolls. Now, a little background history, they only have about 100 customers, and they use CPUD as their customer service and billing processor. And it costs them about $10,000 a year to use that service. Placing it on the tax rolls only cost them $2,000 because the county charges 1%. So they were looking at 200,000. So from an economic standpoint, it made a world of difference to them. It worked. And they did have to go through a long process to allow the county to accept the fact that they wanted to put their sewer bills on the tax rolls. They had to go through county council and a few other things. But that can be managed. In terms of CCWD placing their sewer bills on tax rolls, this year's budget has 9.6 million in sewer bills. That equates to $96,000 of charge to us at 1% to place these bills on the tax rolls. That's a cost, a direct cost to us. Now, are there any savings? Yes, but not as much as you think, because there's only about 435 customers that are sewer-only customers. They would be the ones who would not receive a bill, which would save us about $2,100. The others are combination water and sewer. So we would still have to send these individuals a bill because they get a combined water sewer bill. Moving forward, it would just be a water bill. So there are costs associated with placing the sewer bills on tax rolls. One of the other items is that when I look at the revenue, the $9.6 million, that's over 90% of our total sewer revenues. So you would go to getting revenues monthly to getting it twice a year. And all our bills come in throughout the year. And as it was pointed out earlier, our sewer fund is negative at this point at about $900,000 or so. Is it going to get better in future years? Yes, it will be. And at that point, it's something that I think we could consider. But in the negative fund balance of a sewer fund, the additional costs that it would take to place revenue, the sewer bills on on the tax bills and the cash flow issues, I have serious concerns about moving forward with this. And this is what I stated a year ago, and I know there's a lot of talk about it, and I appreciate the opportunity to come forward and discuss this, but be honest, those are my feelings.
Yeah, I think those are good numbers to look at. I think that, I would like, and I understand cash flow thing, and I recognize this will take at least a year. And we have to stabilize the cash flow. I happen to work in a business that money comes in different times of the year, so you learn to budget cash flow.
Right.
And I think we could figure that out, given enough lead time as well. I'd also like some analysis. I know we've got delinquent charges. How many, we talked earlier about residential sales and
Sure.
people, once you sell that house, you're not going to get that cash flow. So I think it's generally, how long do we let them stack up before we send it? I mean,
Anything 90 days past due.
once a year.
Once a year.
So roughly once a year, we could lose that year of revenue. And while I certainly, ultimately, the person responsible for the sewer bill is the property owner. So this makes them property owner responsible. So we don't end up, it's not, a lot of people think it's the renter, but not on a sewer bill or a water bill. So I'd really like to take I'd like to take a look at that escrow and see, okay, how much are we losing? And I see what you're saying, but this also dovetails with what we're talking about the other day with Tyler. I can't really do a monthly bill. And with AMI, as the technology gets better, we should have all that, as Francisco said, on your phone to check these things. So I see what you're saying. I know that this is a big task, but I'm not ready to walk away from this idea yet.
Right.
Maybe there's gonna be a new finance director that's gonna come on here in the new year, we hope. Otherwise we gotta drag you back over again and you're gonna we have to duct tape you.
No, I do not unretire twice.
Not gonna do it again.
No.
So it might be something, I don't want to take it off the agenda because I think that there's more research that's warranted on this. And a fresh look at Tyler. We're going to talk about that next.
Sure.
So I see what you're saying. I would like to continue to get more understanding of this. So, and I recognize that this isn't something we're going to pass a resolution. It's going to happen tomorrow. We have to plan for this purpose and make sure we got our cash flows correctly. So we could manage it twice a year and then really take into account those other things. If there's ways to reduce the impact on our customer service, is this going to be less hours you're going to need people for other things? It just feels to me like there's something here. Or just looking at it top line. And I think you might see something different if we continue to.
We can look at, as you said, we can look at delinquencies, how much we're losing going to collections. Maybe that's a way we can save some money and so forth. It'll be for my successor to work on this. But the other component of this too is, and I was going to do this in my comments. We're down 3 staff members.
Yeah, no.
And it's going to get worse.
Yeah, I was looking at my comments and I'm like, I don't think I had a pile of them.
Yes. So as the department becomes fully staffed again and moves forward, yes, I think that's something that they can do because even now we're short on the ability to utilize reporting and everything else within Tyler. And the time factor, you just don't have time to do a lot of this stuff.
And I think that, as a customer of the sewer district, that change did have an impact. Never feels good to pay property taxes. If they're bigger, they seem to be bigger every year anyway. But at least psychologically, for me as a customer, it was I gasped when I get the water. I might have a heart attack if I got them together. So if it's all right, I'd like to keep this as an open item and continue to study.
So I think that makes sense. Keep it going. I would ask one question. How much staff time would it save to move to putting sewer on tax rolls?
That I don't know at this point, because you'd have to figure out how much time it would take to put together the file that needs to go over to the county. 5,400 customers, the amounts and all that information. And then there will be times when the property is sold that there will have to be some adjustments, change of ownership and things like that. And if that happens during the year, there may have to be a need for manual billing, back on the billing system.
Right, so and I do recall at some point, we should look back and find Kelly Richards reported to what either the finance committee or the board on this a while back. And it wasn't, if there's a savings at all, it wasn't much of one. It might even take more time. Right now, it's a flat sewer fee that is billed, that doesn't require a lot. The water billing is a lot more complicated than sewer billing. And so, it's not a huge time consumption of time for us to conduct the sewer billing right now.
It's all right. I'd like to keep looking at this because there's, every time you figure out something like that, there's something else. And
Sure.
the teeter requires interest. I think the county keeps on that for exchange for paying. So let's continue to think about this.
Yeah.
See whether there may be, as we improve with Tyler, opportunity to do this as a, I mean,
So we'll note that
transitions,
in a minute.
people coming and going.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure we keep track.
And
All
so,
right.
Kylie, maybe for us, let's make a note to bring this back. I would think, hopefully, if it's okay with the finance committee, we revisit this. February. I was thinking February or March next year. Give it a little bit of time to.
February sounds great.
Yeah, and if I may add my 2 cents in on this, you probably won't know where you stand on the sewer fund until probably July or August of next year, as far as if we've gone positive.
Right. And I'm, it's going to take a year at least to
Exactly.
put this together, the transition in place. That's reasonable.
Understood. I just wanted to let you know that there's certain components of this that you won't know in January, February, March.
And when we get to the comments, I'd love to hear about the staffing issues. How we're going to solve that, because I don't know how you're making things work down at everybody's.
A lot of sleepless nights.
I don't doubt that a bit.
Someone's looking forward to retirement. Public comment.
Francisco de la Cruz, I'm having difficulty understanding the business strategy that's driving this. If we're saying that 92% of our billing is out of the 5,400 customers or so, and we're only going to get money instead of 6 times a year, twice a year, we're going to have to rejiggle everything we do right now to incorporate the fact that we're only going to get this big chunk of hunky money twice a year. And we're going to have some sort of process that identifies, well, what happens when they try to collect and they miss the ownership change? Does that come back to us? Do they deduct it or what have you? So we're getting what, 99% of what we send over, right? But we don't know if they're gonna pay us that 99% without discount, right? And so we're not gonna change our billing system for any of this, right? Except take billing amounts off of the 5,400 folks that are still on water, right? You still have to issue a bill. So I'm having difficulty understanding where the organizational efficiencies, more effectiveness, how it's going to reduce time for the folks doing the customer billing side. I'd need a little more data on where the savings coming in, where's the financial advantage of waiting for 6 months for revenues to come in, and managing everything required to prevent running out of cash, because 96% or 92% is not coming every. Does that make sense? I'm having
does.
difficulty
I'm sorry, but
understanding.
that's exactly what we're talking about here. Just trying to find efficiencies to save money to help out.
Well, I understand that.
There's
and the-
no rock that shouldn't be turned over.
Well, one of the things that people are doing, including myself, is relying on things called AI. And I haven't heard one word except maybe Scott Ratterman went to a conference somewhere where the concept of AI was tossed around. This is going to be, like you say, at least a multi-year, if not 1, maybe 2 years to go from current state to desired end state. There's so much development right now, especially on the customer service side or the customer representative side, that automates a lot of the stuff that more complex organizations handle in a water bill. And I'm wondering, we're missing opportunities there to find ways to achieve those efficiencies without uprooting and changing our cash flow and budgeting and planning stuff.
That's what we're doing here.
Okay.
And we will certainly be looking at the possibility of AI efficiencies within CCWD within the foreseeable future. I would answer the one question, where would the financial advantage be, but the delta between delinquencies and what we would get from the tax rolls. So in other words, overall, we're collecting, when it goes to the tax rolls, we tend to get more money because some of our delinquencies are just not paying at all, ever. So there is a small delta there. Yes. Okay. That's part of a larger equation. Okay. Right along. Tyler.
When Tyler was implemented, it was done in phases. The first was utility billing, when in conjunction with the AMI system. And then after that, we installed the financials group, which is accounts payable, accounts receivable, purchasing, HR, and so forth. But there were still some underlying issues within the UB system that had been out there. We were hoping that some of them would have been fixed with the financial package installed. They were not. Kelly Richards, while she was here, worked with Tyler and went through a business process review and identified 14 items that we felt that would be very helpful at that point to make the UB system work more efficiently. And we went through that process, and as I stated in the report, that was submitted to us the end of June, beginning of July. Unfortunately, Kelly left in September before we were able to get this moving forward. We had met internally, both the finance side and customer service side with IT, to go through that list and see if they were all still valid, or if we wanted to do them, or could we do them in-house. The list that you have at the bottom of page 1 are items that 1 through 14. The no is we decided we're not going to do it. Basically, we had rate codes for individual service areas, for Ebbets Pass, for Copper, for Jenny Lynn, and so forth. We discussed bringing it all into one set of rate codes across the district. But after discussing that, we felt it was still worth having individual rate codes, because if we needed to make adjustments on some bills in just one service area, we could do that. Just like when we did that one adjustment for the water bills up in Ebbets Pass. We didn't change anybody else's. We did a temporary adjustment for Ebbets Pass, and then we pulled them back to where they were supposed to be. This just gives us a little bit more flexibility. Yes, it takes a little bit more time to amend the rate codes at the beginning of the year when we have rate changes, but it was well worth it. So we decided, no, we're not going to do that. The same with integrating mobile MMS work orders. We decided we could work within mobile MMS. It wasn't worth having Tyler to create a lot of additional work to do that. Same with adding APNs to our account information.
Ask a question on the APNs.
Yes.
Why didn't they want to do that, considering our sewer and water ultimately our landlord's responsibility? Seems like something might help title companies.
For us, it wasn't necessary to have it linked directly to the APN. We have that information within there, and we go by street address as well.
So the APN number is in there somewhere?
Yes.
Okay.
And then finally, we were looking at consolidate revenue codes. I'm sorry, we were looking at adding additional review of billing processes and internal review, have an extra set of eyes look at that. Instead of having Tyler do that through work, we readjusted our processes. And then the other one down there, consolidate revenue codes, we did that internally. So those that are listed as done, we did that internally and saved time and money. In fact, when we looked at the quote we got, it was for $6,050. $145, it was total of 40 hours for all these 14 tasks at $145 an hour plus $250 project management cost. When we looked at removing some of those we did not need to do, and also those that we did internally, we whittled that down to 24 hours. So it's going to be a little over $3,700 at this particular point in time. We have submitted our request to Tyler. We are waiting for them to get back to us with a revised quote and a schedule as to when they can move forward with this. So basically, we're waiting on them. And Dylan and IT is taking the lead on this, but it'll be a joint customer service finance project.
You're finding them Tyler, you're finding Tyler more responsive than they were initially, because I know Kelly was a little frustrated at one point.
We will wait to find out.
Okay.
Can I have a copy of the June 30th, 2025 report findings and recommendations?
I can do that.
I don't know if I'll understand most of it, but
Okay.
we see what they've got in mind since the relationship with Tyler is critical to our efficiencies.
So I can provide copies of the BPR.
And like I said, I'll probably have to call you and figure out what the heck this stuff means, but thank you.
Or if you read it at night, you'll fall asleep in your new lounge chair.
There you go.
And in my view, even the $6,000 quote seems reasonable for the amount of work and the importance of what you're asking for. Okay, that's it on Tyler.
That's all I have on Tyler.
And Tyler is tied into our AMI, right? That's how we're getting our readings.
It's tied into Damon. It is tied into it through Centrex that goes.
Yeah, it'll go through the AMI system Centrix through mobile MMS into Tyler. So they're all three softwares.
So are we 100% electronic meter readings?
Yeah, bi-monthly though, we'll have, depending on when we ping the meters and how the network is communicating, we'll have some that have to be read via hand. So for example, this last cycle, we have just around 100 that need to be read via handheld, and then we'll have very small paper. Generally, what happens there is new account or a meter swap, it doesn't necessarily make it through that free software process. And so until it does, which requires some sort of review of the process, and usually it's kind of like re-pinging part of the system, somebody will have to grab that read by hand, and that usually just happens once.
So integrating the mobile MMS work orders, that's been dropped because it's not necessary, it doesn't help. And
Well, I think what Jeff is talking about, I think in terms of analyzing what Tyler is associated with, the customer service staff still have access to mobile MMS, so they can see that work order from the mobile MMS.
I got it.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't clear on that. The original ask was to integrate mobile MMS work orders into Tyler and allow Tyler to report out directly to mobile MMS. So when we have a system that's already in place, we're bypassing that interface because the customer service reps can go directly.
Duplicating it and
mobile MMS.
bypassing it.
Brings to like the thing I brought up last month. I would do bill everything instead of everything. Considering this is all electronic and running straight into Tyler with 100 exceptions. Since we're talking.
We'll put that on, how about if we put that on a future agenda?
Just because. I mean, if we're worried
Anytime
about
after
cash-
January 1st will work for me.
Right, so we put that in the notes that we bring up our monthly billing.
Yes.
To the line.
Okay.
Because it's all electronic, it should all, to an earlier point,
Well-
AI should be able to figure this out.
But just as a footnote, not census, but Mueller guarantees 95% accuracy, efficiency on the meter, not 100%. So there will be outages. So, and we've also had, unfortunately, some issues of theft of repeaters. So things that you don't anticipate happen. But that's a part of that's only one small part of the larger discussion.
And they happen whether we do this or not.
Yeah.
Really like to take a look at that.
Okay.
In the near term. Not pile on you as you're heading out.
No, please don't, because my next item is a plea. Okay,
All right,
That's
public
all I have.
comment.
One of my previous lives was I was in charge of a software engineering group and we did databases and we did database design, et cetera. We always had a key field that indexed that entire database. And as I understand the county system, APN is like their key field. Is it not?
Yeah.
And so when it comes to reconciling from two different systems, it's a real good idea to have the same key code in both files because it makes reconciliation a lot less hair pulling out. And so I would ask you, you said you already have APN on your system?
Yes.
And you'll be able to give it back to them and they'll be able to give it back to you?
Yeah.
Then I don't understand why this was being considered being if it was already in it.
That I wasn't part of the business process we need.
Okay.
Just for that, but you already use APN to understand like this.
But that's why you have a no in this list, right? Because we don't need to do it. We have it.
So it's the same as MMS,
Yes.
same situation. Okay, I was just concerned that you're gonna sell this stuff and then, oh, was this a 3-unit apartment or who owns a 1 unit or oh, it's all on the same APN? It was unit 3 that was, that sort of stuff is.
Valid question. All right. Do we have any other public comment? Eve, that, let's see. We're at report on claims?
Yes, that one, I apologize. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to defer. Till
Okay,
next
yeah, we
week.
didn't have it on,
Pardon me?
I have it listed on the agenda. I don't have any information on it on the
Yeah,
package.
exactly. There wasn't any. I ran out of time. And that's where I'm
We'll get it
hoping
next month.
next month. Yes.
And then any other comments you wish to make?
Yes. Please be kind and gentle. Michael is piling on, so I can handle his workload, but we're down 2 customer service reps. The 2 most senior. And we're down an accountant. So what you see here is our main accountants to do the work on the audit. And this is it. And Michael was the key front man who's doing most of the audit work. We're moving forward on it. I reached out to the auditors to see where we stand and getting the timeline. It was hoped that we could get it to your board in December. I won't know until I hear back from the auditors, but they're still doing work, including looking at GASB 75, which is our OPEB valuations. So there's work ongoing.
So how are we doing on replacements for our losses in the department?
We have recruitments out there on both the my position, the auditor, and also the customer service rep. I mean, not auditor, account, my apologies. So we have 3 ongoing recruitments going right now.
And we expect to fill them when? Depending.
Yeah, don't have a definite date yet. We'll get them filled as quickly as we can.
We've been getting resumes. We're seeing some good applications.
Yeah.
Good, excellent. All right.
So it's a challenge
All right.
because I'm spread between finance and customer service now.
Okay.
And I'm not adept at customer service and Tyler, so I'm learning as we go. But we're keeping our heads above water.
Michael's, there's nothing we can do to help them out temporarily with other staff? Customer
No,
service
but
in
we do
particular.
Have in particular, Jeff and Stacy and I have been working on, what kind of contingency plan we'll have in place, because the goal was to hire a replacement, a director of admin services with enough, with overlap with Jeff to help with the transition. And as we get closer and closer to December 31st, that may not happen. So we have some other plans that we're working on to make sure that is covered. And then, yeah, we're hire customer service and accounting as quickly as we can. Michael Baird, to his credit, is still offered to work with us part-time for a limited period of time, and that's appreciated, I'm sure. But we'll, we're unfortunately no strangers to being short-staffed, so we'll really have to keep going.
Okay, totally separate question, but I don't understand when things go on the tax roll, why it isn't an actual lien on the property so that it can't.
It could end
someone
up
can't.
that way.
Sorry,
It could end up that way, but the tax roll, so as long as the property owner pays their tax bill.
so somebody buys a property, do they inherit the previous water bill?
They will usually clean that up before, if it's on the water bill, they'll resolve that during escrow, during the property transaction. If it hasn't been placed if it's on the tax bill, but if it hasn't been placed on the tax bill yet, that's
when we lose.
the issue.
Got it. All right. Jack, any question?
No, I think as I understand it, once that property sells. Sell
For those that aren't on the tax roll,
it.
yeah.
Right. No, I don't have it. I think we could get some bodies in there.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm kind of nervous about not having customer service and director of finance, but I'm sure Michael.
Okay, I know we had some public comment. Yes, you had your hand up, sort of. No, Roxanne, you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay. So do submit your resume. Like passion on this subject.
Submit your application.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
General manager comments?
No comments other than that. I was going to talk about the staffing issue.
We get one more bite of the apple, right? We get you in December.
Yes.
Depends on what's on the agenda.
It's gonna be a little early.
Well, we
If
know,
you keep throwing things like sewer on tax bills, delinquencies, monthly billing, maybe I'll show up sick that day.
Well,
yeah,
we
we
might
can zoom
have
in
a-
sick, it's fine.
We might have a retirement case.
But yes, and I think part of your next step is to set the date for the next meeting.
We appreciate, I appreciate your longevity with this organization, keeping on track. I know you'll leave it in good shape, the best thing we can do.
All right, does Tuesday, December 16th work for you? And for you, Jack?
Second. Yep,
Our next committee date will be December 16th at 2:30 PM. If there's no further public comment,
we
Sorry?
wanna, Michael, do you have any comments?
No, I was just gonna.
Yeah, pretty much. Jack, any director comments for the agenda?
At this time,
I would, as I mentioned, my only comment would be, I'd like to see something in writing as a response, Michael, to
Sure.
Francisco's, because it was multiple people, as I understand that, worked on this, so. Thank you. I see, I know there's a lot of, we can answer that easily, but there are some in there that we can't, so thank you very much. All right. In this case, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
so